goes down here to Botswana 80,000 years ago. And we have in Swaziland 35,000 years ago, Lubambo bone. Then back up to Lake Edward 25,000 years ago. The Lubambo, right, and the Ashango bone here. Then it comes up all the way to Egypt, up Khartoum, Fayum, it even goes here into Mesopotamia. And then it goes also west at the same time. Next. Now, how did they make these trips? Well, if you remember that everything possibly was 7 times as large, here's the Rift Valley. And if you look and you see all these rivers how they are now, can you imagine them larger than that? There was a conduit, or a I-95 of water. Okay? And this is how they get down here. All right? Next. As they go down down here and they go to the west, you see Tussolito. I don't know if you've read about that. There's in here there's a white what is it? A White Plains shelter or White Plains cave where they found harpoons and other things. And that's where they found the 80,000-year-old harpoons, right down in that area. And you'll see right here, it's a swamp now, but it was a lake at that time. And these rivers here were a lot larger. Next. So you'll see in this next slide. Next, you'll see an old drawing of Aqualithic where they came from. Right in here, they went south and they went north. 5 minutes left, okay? Now, who were the people of the African Aqualithic? Next, Cole unbelievably mentions that the prevalent assumption is that Caucasian influence, this is a quote, he said, a prevalent assumption is that Caucasian influence was prominent in East Africa during the Aqualithic, unquote. No. Even Kuhn found this ridiculous, and he's the same Kuhn who was quoted as saying, quote, if Africa was the cradle of mankind, it was only an indifferent kindergarten. Europe and Asia were our principal schools, unquote. Ridiculous, even to him. Okay? But Kuhn did write that Professor Patterson's found human remains, specifically, quote, cranial and post-bone bones of the Shango people show them to have been Negroes, and Sutton and Leakey agreed. So the first Caucasians to enter Egypt were brought there by Seti I during 19th dynasty, 1280 BC. So Caucasians, first put in context, first entered Egypt or Africa for the first time as prisoners of war after Seti I defeated the first alliance of European Caucasians. So, if this is true, how could Caucasians have had any contact, much less influence on Africa, thousands of years before? Okay? There were no Caucasians on Earth, by the way, until 15,000 years BC, and here we have the Aqualithic culture starting 80,000 BC. So how could they have done anything? So the first and earliest Africans in the Aqualithic tradition were short Africans called the Anu, the Twa and the Khoi. For that information. Next, as you go west, right in here, we found, and now this is really something. Last month, National Geographic has a picture and an article about these people right here who they found in the African Aqualithic. 8,000-year-old graves they found. 200 of them were harpoons for fishing, dotted and wavy line pottery. Next. And the people, as you can see right here, were the Kiphian people. They were tall, they were muscular, they were fishing with harpoons, they were catching little fish and some small, larger fish right here, perched 200 to 300 pounds. All right, next. And you'll see this next slide, it has an exquisite bone fish hook right here. And look at that. This is right here is from the Kiphian 9,000 years ago. If you look at the next slide, you'll see that the old 80,000-year-old harpoons here match this almost identical. So you see a cultural continuity which is keeping us to knowing that they had contact. Okay, so harpoons found in the Shango 25,000 years ago, then Lubambo 35,000, Kalahari 80,000, and Katanga 90,000 years. So the points to a single cultural tradition. The time gap between the three indicate an exceedingly long cultural continuity. So, continuity. In conclusion. The African Aqualithic culture spread rapidly across Africa from southern Rift Valley north and so on. Okay? This African Aqualithic culture was best known for its harpoon spears and later for its pottery. The evidence presented here leads to the realization that Sutton's 9,000-year-old date for a wetter climate of his 9,000 BCE date for the Aqualithic may now have to be pushed back to at least between 25 and 90,000 BC. You can read more about this. I think Malefi might be publishing this in his journal. So, this African civilization did not come from the south, skip over Egypt, make a civilization in Mesopotamia, turn from black to white, and then bring their nice white civilization back to the poor Africans. It did not happen. My dissertation contains evidence in 9 multidisciplinary study areas, 9 disciplinary areas, that the Nile Valley civilization predates the one in Mesopotamia. In fact, the first one in Mesopotamia was Sumer, which was made by black Africans anyway. Now this hard evidence that reveals that there is misinformation, factoids found in history from textbooks that must be changed and corrected with this updated information. So I have it right here, okay, self-promotion thing. My dissertation's on that. I'll have that afterwards. So there is no doubt that the Nile Valley civilization, should I say the Rift Valley civilization, predated any other in the world that is known of today. Thank you so much.